Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Today we're going to take a quick look at the latest event type, Fest Tours. Now, keep in mind we've only got a couple days left of the event, so you may not be able to do as much as you'd hope, but maybe this will be enough to let you at least clear enough to earn your first copy of Asahi, or maybe even finish your first tour. So starting off, of course, I've already gotten through most of the missions, if not all of them, and have done a bit of upgrading, so my numbers are going to look very different from yours in the very beginning. But let's just go over the basics. Fest Tours is a Fest-related mode, and the best team to run for it are characters built in Landing Point. We have a mini guide for the mode available above. The reason for this is because songs in Fest Tours get upgraded depending on the level that you got in Landing Point, and these buffs can affect your entire team. The more buffs you have, the more effective your team will be overall. Keep in mind, of course, this means that Nocchill and Sheez, despite having the ability to be buffed in this mode, do not have any benefits of Landing Point yet, so it's best to build around teams that can use Landing Point. However, you can still use your regular Fest idols, they just won't be receiving the same level of bonus that Landing Point cards do. The name of the game is you're going to be climbing up a tower, effectively. You'll be doing this over and over, going through possibly random events or just constant performances, and as you do so, you'll be gradually ticking down your character's stamina, because every character has their own stamina bar, shifting between teams in order to recover stamina, and making your way to the final boss of each area. Once you clear every single area, you will have cleared a tour, and the new tour will begin. Now looking at this main page, we have 8 areas that you have to access: pink, orange, brown, yellow, lime green, green, light blue, and dark blue. Each of these areas have their own benefits. Sometimes it's maybe 1 to 2 to 3 effects, and sometimes no effect at all. This just affects either appeal damage, stamina recovery, stamina usage, and just overall effectiveness of either the team or the attribute. So make sure to consider those areas that suit you best, either first or last, depending on the situation. If your team is strong enough, then you may want to save a region that severely buffs you until last, as the stages do get progressively harder the further you go. At the bottom left of the screen, you can see a 5 out of 5, which represents the number of attempts that you have, because if your mental ever hits 0, or you fail to achieve first or second place in any performance, the run will end, and you will be scored based on all the possible things you were able to do, such as top appeal, last appeal, number of stages you've cleared, number of items you've earned, so on and so forth. You use these points to upgrade your characters to make the next run even easier. The first 3 runs are free. I'm pretty sure the 4th costs gold, and the 5th run absolutely costs gold. So usually you're going to have about 3 runs per day to mess with Landing Point. And they reset on the daily time when you get your daily login bonus and the missions reset. So whatever time that is for you is when your uses for Landing Point will reset. As for some buttons you're going to want to get used to, on the bottom here we have the Fest Tours button. This will allow you to access all of your teams that are available for the mode. You won't see many of your benefits of your teams by going on this page, but this is a great way to get your team set up. I recommend in the beginning that you have at least 2 teams, one of one stat and one of another, so that way you can bounce between the 2 regularly. One thing you may notice that is going to be drastically different depending on the teams that you use are the little stats right next to the character portraits. In this case, our Hokura cards have 999. In some cases, we have here Alstroemeria and Straylight, which have 500 and 600, or somewhere around 500. This is your character's stamina. The stamina actually depends per character, not per card, so it's a good idea to make a different team of completely different characters, so that way you don't end up using twice as much stamina from 2 different attributes. Or if you make a 3rd team, to have a 3rd team to balance around as well. You have the ability to upgrade this at the end of runs, so don't worry about it too much. In the beginning, it's going to feel pretty rough, but it's a great upgrade to have once you get done with that first run. Next up, we have the options on the top right here. First up, we have the available buffs. The first buff, I believe, is based per region clear, the second is based on tour clears, and the third is based on clearing the hard difficulty Extreme Fest. Next up, we have character bonuses. There are actually some small benefits to using some specific SSRs, both produce and support. Produce cards generally have an improvement to overall drop rates, or to stamina usage, or stat strength. It's all kind of all over the place. But make sure to check this out if you think that you can take benefit of any of these buffs. The supports more or less affect either drop rates or amount of points that you earn, as well as damage too. So, picking some specific supports based on the buffs for that specific tour is not a bad thing to do. The effectiveness of the buff does change based on the number of stars of the character you have. The third button is the Extreme Fest, which unlocks every 160 stages, so if you're just looking for one copy of Asahi, you won't have to worry about this. The fourth shows you your current overall score. This shows you things such as how many vocal stages you've cleared, dance or visual stages, how many times you've gotten first, how many times you've gotten second, how many extreme lives you've cleared, and other things as well. This turns into a tallied up score, which earns you Fest Tours points. These are used to upgrade your characters. The next two buttons are mostly just Q&A stuff, and the last button is to end the run early. If you don't like how it's going or your stamina is in a horrible spot, you can choose to just end the run there. Now, let's go ahead and jump into a stage, shall we? We're going to select this one because it'll be the easiest for my certain setup, because my team is Vocal Hokura for the most part, and this buffs Vocal as well as Kaho. So once we select our area, we click the pink button, and we enter in, and we see the grid. The way that the grid works is that at the beginning you are allowed one of three choices. In this case, we have a vocal, visual, or dance stage. Picking any of the attribute stages will put you into a performance. This performance will show you your team, as well as any and all buffs that you may have thanks to your items. You can check the tab to see what items you currently have, as well as what buffs are currently active for your characters. And the third tab will also show you how much health the judges have and any sort of gimmicks that they have after a certain point. You can choose to back out to go away from the stage if it's not something that you're interested in. If you want to double check the bonuses, they are available from this button here. You can redo your teams from the button here as well. And the third button here is your items. Consumable items are things that you will get throughout the run, and you will have slots to equip them to. At the beginning, you won't have very many slots, but as you upgrade, you will be able to carry more. These in the beginning are not particularly strong, but again, these are items that you can also upgrade at the end of runs as well. Before we get into it, however, let's talk about the other panels that are available in Fest Tours. The first immediate one we can see are gift panels, represented by a present box. Gift panels award you just free items. They're a very good free space to land on because those items are the consumables that we were just talking about. Getting more of those will make your runs a little more consistent, so it's a good idea to pick them up when you can. The green tiles filled with stars are the healing tiles. Landing on these will recover your character's stamina. It's always a great idea to land on these, especially if you're focusing on maybe just one team, in order to keep your team healthy and keep things moving. The purple tile represents an event. Landing on an event tile will have you go into a scenario that you may not understand entirely, and it may prompt you to answer a question or pick something out of multiple choice, or just see what happens. These effects are completely random, and not every answer is guaranteed. Things can include healing you, taking away your stamina, giving you stamina. You can get items, lose items, raise tension, lower tension. It's all up in the air. Sometimes the events can be incredibly clutch, so don't neglect them entirely, but I totally understand if you'd want to skip them. Lastly, way up here at the top in this case, we have the tension panel. Landing on the tension panel will simply raise your tension. The reason why this is important is because your tension at the top right of the screen here gradually goes down as you perform. So if you want to keep it high to have access to your memory peel often, then you'll want to keep an eye out for those panels as well. Well, let's go ahead and get into a performance, shall we? Just to double check the team, we'll equip the item even though we don't really have much use for it, and we'll jump right in. So we're going to lead this off with the Jury Appeal. Now we'll use the Kaho Appeal. And now we'll use Choco's Memory Appeal. At the end of the runs, you will receive scores based on what you were able to accomplish. The top score represents your highest score for the current run, and the bottom score represents your highest score of any of your runs. Also, at the end of every performance, your character's stamina will decrease. In this case, Kaho, Choco, Jury, and Rinzei all lost 23 stamina, while Natsuha lost 21. The reason why stamina dropping is important is because the lower your character's stamina gets, there are actually some negative effects involved with it. When your character's stamina falls below 60%, you actually take 10% more damage and lose 10% of your stats. The lower this goes, the more harsh the penalties get. If your stamina hits 0, you take 100% more damage and lose 90% of your stats. So it's a very good idea to heal whenever possible. The way that you heal outside of events is to simply not partake in a performance. So any of my team members that did not participate here, so basically anyone that isn't Hokura, will get a small recovery to their stamina. If on the next live I choose to use some other team, then Hokura will recover stamina as well. It's a good idea, again, to juggle your teams as much as possible. Once you go up, you will notice that now we can't go back down, and our center has moved over to the right because we picked the rightmost tile. Depending on whichever tile you pick, you will go straight up from the tile you chose, and you will always have the option of the tile immediately to the left or right. This does mean if you go to the absolute corners, you will only have 2 options. So it's a good idea to hug the center as much as possible unless a tile that you really need is on a far side. It's a good idea to always check the board to see if there's any path that fits your team the best, and be able to plan things out ahead of time, since you're able to see the entire board. Your goal is to reach the final stage, the final. It's a slightly stronger version of any of the performances you participate in, and doing so will clear out that region. An important part about this is that regions actually apply a buff when you finish them. When you finish a region, you will have the ability to choose one of 3 buffs. This buff can be completely random towards whatever region, so you may see a buff for the same region, or you may see 2 different buffs for one region, or 3 completely different regions. These buffs are activated as soon as you enter the region, not when you get them from the end of that run. So, a late game strategy that can be very useful is to stack up as many buffs as you can on a specific region and save it for last. Otherwise, you can pick a region that has a buff that's appropriate to you then, and go ahead and take it on as soon as possible. If you clear out all 8 regions, you will finish a tour. When you finish a tour, you again will have a choice of one of 3 buffs, except now, this buff is going to last you the entire run. Now, I won't show it here, but if you do end up finishing the run or end up losing, you are taken not only to that scoring screen we saw earlier, but you will get to visit the Festoor's shop. The Festoor's shop has multiple things that you're able to upgrade. The biggest thing that I recommend, of course, is the stamina. Being able to upgrade character stamina, as represented by these red tokens, red squares rather, with the bow on it, will increase their base stamina by 100 for every level that you get. This is probably the most important upgrade in the beginning, because it means that you'll be able to use your characters much more often and be able to keep things going a lot longer without worrying about your stamina as much. The next major upgrade is stamina reduction, as represented by the shield icon in green. This reduces how much stamina auditions and performances take. So this is a really good thing to pick up as you climb up, because the higher level an area gets, the more stamina it costs. Reducing that stamina, again, very useful. After that, the green stars represents stamina recovery. So again, whether you land on a healing tile, get an event that recovers stamina, or just simply don't participate in a performance, Getting this will recover your stamina more than usual. Outside of this, you also have the ability to upgrade characters in their particular positions. You also have the ability to outright increase their stats in a particular manner. So if you just want to make sure your characters are strong in most assets, then upgrading this is great as well. Not shown on this screen is the ability to upgrade items. So any of the items that you get start at level 1 as well. Upgrading those will increase their buff effectiveness when the run is over. Once you have spent all your points, you'll have the ability to start again, and you can go pick back up where you left off. A nice little feature of Fest Tours that was actually updated within a couple days of the launch of the event is that now you can restart every 20 levels. So if you say lost at level 35, you get to pick up at level 20. Originally, when the game launched, you could only start a minimum of 60 levels behind where you ended. So if you ended at, say, 120, you only had the ability to pick up at 60. But now, as long as you finish the region, you'll be able to pick up exactly where you left off. So it's a good idea if you just think that you're not strong enough to close out every 20 levels and get some upgrades and pick right back up where you left off. Other than that, that's more or less the mode. You're going to be participating in a lot of performances. You're just going to keep going and climb into that top, keeping your stamina high, and just get stronger and stronger as you go. Hopefully you'll be able to finish the event when you can, or at least get enough of what you want from it. There's a lot of decent rewards, as well as the event SR as well. Hopefully that all has been helpful. I've been Cho. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.